This is Short Hammer. It is the 3rd of May, 2020, and this is Trading Zones. Now, the MES, if we remember from last week, what we were discussing was the potential for this setup to be a kind of a janky inverse head and shoulders. And we were expecting, if this resolved to the upside, that we'd see an extension. And it kind of did go up. But the news that came out, um, sort of, I'll say mid to late in the week, really reversed the upward momentum the market was showing. And there's no prediction, I would say, of where we're going next, because the same way that we've had news push us up, drop us down, push us up, drop us down. What we got to do is just play these levels. So let me broaden this out so you could see some of these. I know I have a bunch of lines here. So where we are, right around this 28, 18-ish area. To the downside, we have this 2800. Below that, we have 2773, 2740, 2713, 2697. So if we go down, what I will be watching for, if we, gap down through all these lines, is I'll be watching for buyers to step in right around these 2740s. Look at the candle structure there, where you've seen buyers try to hold this level. Even if we pierce, we've seen buyers try to hold this level. So we'll see. If for some strange reason news comes out that pushes us up to the upside, above this 2818, we have 2833, 2851, we do like this 2862-ish area, 2873, and 2887, 2914, 2945, and 2951s, and potentially 2970s, right? So what will we watch for if we go to the upside? Look right here around the 2852-ish area. Actually, my 2851 area. As we push up into here, we see these lower wicks. So the back test here, that area here, boom, boom. But this area into the 2883. Look at those tops there. So we'll see if we go to the upside, if we're able to find buyers since the sellers sort of pull away. But I'll be watching these levels personally. I'll be watching to see what we do around the 2800, and if we are going the other direction, what we do around the 2830s. But the strong areas to watch would be the 2740s, and we would really need to push to get to these upper levels. But I'll be watching to see if we catch a bid around 2740s, if we continue to drop, if the buyers step in there. So on the Russell, what we want to remember is, where were we? So let me go to the daily here. So we were here the last time we were talking about the Russell. And since then, we kind of broke out to the upside. Look at these candles, pushed all the way through the 1350s. The reversal of momentum here, and we pulled right back to this area, right back to this 1252.80-ish area. So what's funny is when we broke through initially, there was a back test here, and then we took off. And when we were pulling back here, there's buyers are trying to hold this 1252-ish area. So keep an eye on that to see if we're going to if buyers are going to still try to defend this area. So to the downside, we're watching 1252.80, 1233, 1215. No, 1215, not 1233, 1215, 1178, 1138. To the upside, we're watching for the 1290 area, 1350, and 1416 if we have really good news flowing out there. But those are levels that we're watching on the RTY. Again, that's to the downside, the 1215 area. Below that, the 1178 area. Below that, 1138. Below that, 1096 to the upside. The 1290s, 1350s, 1416s. Let's jam on over to Amazon. Had interesting earnings. They did, I believe they missed on EPS. But what we're seeing here is, look at this. So it's almost like this is its own section. So to the downside, we want to watch for a hold of the 2251 area. Below that, next up, we have the 2186, 2160s. Let's drag this down. Actually, hold on. Let me remove this. Scrunch this up a little bit. Move this down. Let's see if we can't get broadening so you can see all these numbers a little better. Okay. 2134s, but here looking at this candle structure from this break right around the 2180s, we would want to see, because you saw on this break sort of like a springboard up, we want to see if we do continue to sell and drop to this downside, is there a relief bounce around the 2186 area? Will buyers step in there? Looking at the candle structure, is that something that's going to happen? And if we go through that, we see structure here also around the 2030s. And I wouldn't expect us to dump that deeply on Amazon, but we do want to watch these levels. If buyers step in earlier and they push us back above the 2291 area, then we're watching 2318s, 2407s, 2450s. Those are levels that we're watching on Amazon. I did expect Amazon to do better, especially with how they're doing with their Whole Foods. But got to read the charts where it is right now. So I'd watch these levels to the downside and this candle structure here. And if we go to the upside, if the buyers do step in and push us back up, I would be watching the 2291s, 2318s to see if we could find buyers to squeeze us level to level. Looking at Netflix. So if we are looking, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, it was here. Yep. So unable to find buyers to push us over the 431s. And now we're pushing back down. We do want to see if we hold this area here. Look right above these upper wicks. Look at this back test here, right around this upper wick area. Back test here. So me personally, if I'm bullish on this, I would want us to stay above the 390s. Right in here, the lower 390s. I don't want us to hold that. and for buyers to keep us up here. So based on where we are right now to the downside, we have 410, 405, 384, 370. To the upside, we have 418, 431, 439, 447. And what we want to remember is these 384s took us a while to get through that. When we did, we're now holding up here. Last time we were here, those were the highs. And so we're kind of right in this area. We want buyers to step in here and push us back to the upside if we're bullish. We don't really want to drop down here around the 380s. If we do drop around the 380s, we should look for buyers to try to defend this area. The reason being is that this was such a strong supply area for well over a year that buyers should defend this area because supply becomes demand. So we pull back into this area, we should expect there to be some type of defense. So unless there's a strong selling momentum in the market that drives us through this area and sort of gaps us through, if we do pull back near this area, I would expect buyers to try to defend that. So we'll see. Oh, one thing before I leave Netflix. 1 second. Before I leave Netflix, what I want to remind everyone is that Netflix did beat on earnings and they still dropped. So even if you knew that they were going to blow their new subs out of the water, and that historically has been something that Netflix has run hard on, you couldn't predict that the reaction would be selling, right? Would be a pullback. So when you're playing earnings, you have to be careful because even if you know what the earnings are going to be, to try to judge what the reaction from that will be is very, very difficult, especially in the current market conditions that we're dealing with, where it's hard for companies to be able to forecast and predict what the future environment is going to look like. So heading on over to NVIDIA, who has earnings coming up, looks to be near the end of May. So we are right here around the 282s. And to the downside, we have 274. Then this 266, 260, 252s. To the upside, and don't want to forget this 282 right in, it's like right there, just 282 area. To the upside, we have 291, 295, 303, 313, and 317. Now, if I'm looking at this, we did see on the week that we gapped up, and then buyers just didn't have the appetite to drive us above these 304s, which is what you do want to see. When we do gap up, you want to see buyers drive us above the highs. And we have, I'll say day on day, bullish advancing candles if you're bullish. Instead, what we saw is day on day, just no strength up into these 300s, just weakness. Like there's just no oxygen here. And we did pull back. So we're looking at this structure here. We're right around this candle structure here. So we do want buyers to step in and push us back up. But I would be cautious on NVIDIA, because can we hold this area here right around this 282? Yes, because we see the structure here that was a supply area. We get back through, back test, couldn't get back over there, push back up, couldn't get through. And then we're here. Then we had to gap came for the back test, cracked through, went buyers, bought us right back through it, tried to gap us again and back to it. So we do want this 282 to hold. If 282 doesn't hold, then the structure could definitely drop us right down to about the 266 area. And the 260, you can just see the candle structures here of the areas it could drop us to, almost like an elevator. And don't want to miss here the 274, because that's possible too. But that's what I'm seeing on NVIDIA. People may be playing the run into earnings. Everyone has a different way of playing that. So usually roughly 30 days or so prior to earnings, you're looking for a dip to play for that run up. If you're playing options, you're looking for an increase in that premium for a spike there and the volatility on it. So we'll see how people are playing NVIDIA and how NVIDIA reacts to all that's going on in the broader market. But earnings is coming up at the end of the month, and we'll see if we find a deeper pullback here that people may look to find an area where buyers see value to ride this into earnings potentially. Next up is CMG. So if we remember, what we mentioned on CMG was we want to watch this area here, right around the 850s. And what we see is that we did test it. We did springboard back up, but it's almost as if the buyer said, there's no value above here. And the sellers said, we're going to get you. We're going to push you back down. So we're back down. We pushed back down to the 850s, and we bounced a little bit out of that. So let me drop this to the 4 hour so you can see that clearly where we currently are. So you can see where this is almost providing a demand level where the buyers are stepping in. What we want, if you're bullish on CMG, what you want is a clear break of these tops. It's almost as if there's like a glass ceiling here that's been keeping the bulls from running. You want a clear break through that area and a squeeze. Now, if we crack through below these 850s and we begin to sell, you can sort of get short against this level. And what you want to remember is last time, this level, we were riding along, consolidating, push, held the bottoms, and we were pushed up, came back through, and we gapped through. And then we just had this massive sell action that happened here. So we recovered and we're right back here again. This time they were short to push us through to back test, and what they want is a springboard and to sort of get us to pop and make all-time highs. But we're not doing that right now. This could be seen as a consolidation pattern here, but I would, depending on how risky you are, if you're more of a risk taker, then you're getting long off this area. But if you're more of a conservative trader, then what you're doing is you're waiting for a clear break of the all-time highs to ride this wave up. So it just depends on how you trade. If you want a clear decision to be made on, hey, are we going to hold this area, and are we going to run, or it's going to find more buyers here, or is this area going to give way, and are the sellers going to take control and drive us back down? So to the downside, let me get these levels. If we get below these 850s, to the downside, we have 823, 781, 745, 717. And to the upside, if we break, we want to keep an eye out for the 888s, the 916s, and the 940s. Now, Facebook is interesting here. Okay, so you look at the 4 hour, and we had some after hours action here, but Couldn't hold. So the 210s is a significant area on Facebook. And let's see, take a peek at the daily. What we want is we want to get above the 210s. If you're just looking at this chart, let's see what we've got here. Yeah, we want strength above 210s. If you look at this, okay, so here it's insane. We did get above the 210s, but we didn't hold above the 210s there. And let's slide this way. Here we got above the 210s. Now we did see advancement into the 220s when we got above the 210s, but what we didn't see was the just consistent bullish strength we got here. And oxygen got thin, tried to catch us up, tried to push us, bid us, and buy us up through that top, just couldn't do it. And we tested that area here again. So it seems that when Facebook gets above those 210s, you want to be careful on whatever position that you're in to see if the buyers will show us continuation, because it seems that above this we have maybe 12, 13 points above those 210s where the buyers see value. And then as you start to get up there, the air gets thin, the sellers start to jump on board and weigh that bad boy down, and we sell. So from here, we're right now rejecting the 210s. If we don't buy back above that, to the downside, what we have is this 198 area, then 191, 184, 181. We do see just a little bit of structure here where it looks like on the pullbacks that we have seen a bounce around the 180 area. So quite a ways down. Let's see. Let's push into here almost. We pulled back. We didn't catch a bid till right around this. The 179, we caught a bid. And they're trying to hold us here. Pushed it back to the 190. And they bought us back up. Trying to catch a bid here. So we want to catch a bid here. Look at this structure here. We want to catch a bid in this area. We want buyers to push us up. And if the buyers can hold us around this area, look at this structure here. We want a buy up above the 203, the 208, and then a squeeze through the 210s. And we may need to gap through these 210s to really get the buyers motivated to give us a squeeze to test those all-time highs. But that's what we're seeing on Facebook. I did take a slight peek at their earnings transcript, and some of the things that they were mentioning was that they did see a decrease in ad revenue, but they do see stabilization. What they're seeing is a rotation from people driving traffic for offline stores into an increase in the gaming sector, and people trying to do more online with capturing leads for their online stores. And they did launch a competitor for Zoom. We'll have to see how that materializes. But one of the reasons that Zoom did pull back was that Zoom had a few issues with security of their meeting software. And I think that Facebook has a history of security missteps. So it'll be interesting to see if corporations are going to trust Facebook as a strong competitor to ZM, to Zoom. We'll have to see. But I think that's an interesting thing that they're sort of throwing their hat in that arena. It's really smart of them to pivot that way. But we'll see how corporations feel about trusting Facebook as a strong option to ZM. So here is Apple. So looking at the daily, Apple had earnings, and we would say that the reaction, we'll see sort of how this plays out this week. I did not check the earnings transcript yet. I will be going through that probably later today. But we are back testing this trend line. What we want to see from Apple, if you're bullish on Apple, you want us to get back above these 295s. So if we take a peek at this, above the 295s, we do see some strength. But since we sort of cracked back below this 295 area, the buyers have not had the strength when we've pushed above to separate and get us above the 308 area. So that's what you want. You want the buyers to hold the line around this 284 and drive us back through the 295, and for us to find bids and have it squeeze into the 308s and then have a bullish run. We do know that stores are opening back up. Just as businesses states begin to open things up in the US, and as China is opening up and people are trying to get things back to normal in certain countries. But I'm not sure how heavy that traffic is going to be. So we don't know what their sales will look like next quarter. Should it be better than this quarter? Yeah, it should be, but we have to wait and see. So the way I would play Apple is just look for your technical levels. We see here that historically buyers do like this 284 area, so they may step in, but wait for the reaction first. If we begin to sell heavy from here, which we don't know if we will, we have to wait to see. But watch this 284, watch the 277s, watch the 271s, watch the 267s, watch the 256s, and see if we just find buyers in those areas and they begin to reverse this. But I would really be watching. If you're looking to build a position in this anywhere near here, I would want us to be above the 295. And to be honest, I really prefer if we're above the 308s. That's where you want to see just strength between the 295 to 308s. You want to see buyers pushing us up through that level, through that area. Just because we've had a problem since we've cracked back below this 308 and back through the 295, we've had a problem finding buyers above this level. Just my opinion. Over to Intel. So Intel, let's see on the daily chart. So we pushed up, tested the 62s, pulled back down. So to the downside, we have 56.90s. Below that, we have 55.71, 53.58, then 51.11s. To the upside, we have 58.85, 60.94, 62.06, and 63.77. If we drop this down to the 4-hour, what's interesting is you could almost, looking at this structure, almost draw a mini channel. Let's see. Here to here. But I'll use this line even though we've kind of held above that. And it seems as if between the 55.70s and the 60.90s is an area where we spend a lot of time. Now, we did see a push above into the 62s, but we sort of came right back into this 60.90 area. So if we're watching this and this pattern continues, up here, down, up here, try to springboard through, pulled right back down, here, down, here, springboard through, down. So technically, we should see a pullback into the 55.70s. And if we get down here on the 55.70s, buyers should step in and ping pong us back up to go back to those 6090s. We'll see if that pattern continues. But this looks to be a short-term pattern that we may want to keep an eye on to see if when we get down here, do the buyers step in and push us back to the upside? And if we do catch a bid before we get here, do we then see rejection right around the 6090s? Or if we extend through that, the 62s, do we see a rejection as we squeeze up into that area? So that's pretty interesting on Intel. So here is McDonald's on the 4-hour. This is an area that I do believe we mentioned last week, this 191 to 196, that we would need to really get through that for, see a peek at the daily, see if the daily shows it more. Okay, there we go. Really get through this area for us to see significant upside on McDonald's. And what we were mentioning was that we saw this area of consolidation where it was sort of winding up before it made this move. And we were approaching that area again, headed into earnings. If we had great earnings, we would have gapped through this. And then we would be talking about, the 200s as the future projections of where we could go. But we did reject. We didn't quite get into that area. It seems as if the sellers had other ideas. So to the downside, I'd be watching the 181s, the 171s, the 167s. To the upside, 187, 191 is probably going to be difficult to get through, but we'll see. The 196s and the 201s. We have to see what the buyers have the appetite for and how much risk the sellers are willing to take as far as getting short if we happen to push back up here. But this rejection isn't necessarily some precursor of, oh, this is going to sell off. We just have to see where the buyers see value. Check out Goldman. Now, Goldman, we did mention this area right around this 189 into the 207s as a channel that we spent significant time in. And so what we want to watch for here, all this, I don't know why this doesn't extend all the way back here, but all this is part of that. This is a weird, I'll fix this later, but this channel here, all this from here, January 2019, look at that. Just how we sort of hung around in that area. Below, pulled us right back to it. Above, pulled us right back into it. It's just an area that's a contact area, a touch point, a heavy touch point for Goldman Sachs. So for Goldman, we ran up into this channel and we rejected. And what we were saying was, hey, if we do begin to buy up, watch what happens at this channel. It's a significant traffic area. And what happened was we got into it and the buyers just didn't have the appetite to push us further. They saw what we saw, that this could be a potential area where we could see some turbulence. And what you would want is that once we get in here, that if we did back test, that we held the 189s and then this channel came back into strong effect and they would push us to the 207s. And then we see if we saw some selling up here and we sort of bounce around in here, give us a nice little range play. Instead, it rejected and we pulled back down here right around the 177 area. So if we're keeping an eye on Goldman Sachs to the downside, watch the 171s, 166s, 157, 149 to the upside. If buyers can step in and help us out here, 189, 197 to 207, then 214s. But this area will be a rough area that even if we get into, we might spend some time in once those 189s firm back up, if we can get back up there. We have to see. But financials are under pressure, guys. Like there's a lot of turbulence there and turmoil there. Just paying attention to what's going on with mortgages and forbearances, and there's a lot of gray area, a lot of confusion as to when it comes to your mortgage. If you get a forbearance, do you have a balloon payment on the back end? What's going on with can you roll that to the back end of your mortgage? When will people get back to work? When will they be able to start paying those mortgages again? For the and that's just on the retail side, right? But if you're on the rental side, where you're a landlord that owns multi-unit properties, people are choosing not to pay their rent. Some people are really choosing not to pay their rent right now because their finances are under pressure. So when your finances are under pressure, it does revert to the hierarchy of needs. With what people will find valuable is going to be food, and it's going to be potentially healthcare, and those types of things that people will find valuable. And the other thing we want to watch for is car companies, because like if you need your car, most people need their car to go to work, right? So you're going to make your car payment. But if this continues and if people aren't getting back to work, there will be pressure on the car industry and on the real estate industry, on the economy as a whole. But those two industries are going to really feel the pressure, just the same way that right now the cruise industry is feeling pressure, the airlines are feeling pressure, the hospitality industry is feeling pressure, because people aren't able to get back out there and get back to work right now. So there's going to be significant pressure on those particular industries. But let me keep going. Let's see. Excuse me. So let's check this SPY. So looking at the SPY to the downside, we want to watch the 281 area, and we see this was a area that buyers struggled to get through and sellers held the line. When we came back up here, we sold, bounced, strong recovery, hit this, sort of almost got a concussion trying to get through there. Pushed up, sort of hung around this area for a while, got above it, pulled back to it. So this is a interesting area. We want to keep an eye on those 281s. That's a strong area here where, look, and then here buyers are defending it. Look at that. They're like, oh, no, you don't. And so look at this candle, straight through, then try to gap us back over. Buyers try to hold. Let me spread this. I really want you to see this. This is so interesting. Okay. So this is this area here, this 280 area, right? Sell back through, try to buy us back up. They pulled us back under. And now you saw the battles here, just trying to separate from this area, and we're pulling back to it here. So I would watch this as an interesting area where buyers and sellers, it's a knife fight in the phone booth. This is the marginal line. They want to defend this. So we want to see who's going to take control. Are we going to get below this? And will there be strong selling? Or are we going to stay above this? And will the buyers try to separate from this line? We have to watch that. We did see a pullback this week, but that doesn't mean we're bearish. Sort of got to be careful being biased to either side, and just play the setup that you see for that day, or short term if you want to say for that week. But to the downside on the SPY, let me just get those levels out. 280 90s, or just 280s, depending on how broad your stops may be. 273s, 260s, potentially 250s to the upside. 286, 294. Then you want those 302s. Let's check. So so I'll just keep an eye on those levels. But as we just saw, this 280 90 area is a really interesting area where almost like a swing door, where above we're more bullish and below we're more bearish. But even if we drop this level, it looks as if the buyers are stepping in around the 273.49-ish area. They stepped in here. They stepped in here. They tried to step in here. Look at this, catching a bid here on these pullbacks, right around that area. A little bit pull below, but they try to yank us right back above it to give us a little bit of strength. So we'll see how this resolves, how this shakes out. Now this week on Tesla was interesting. Elon did the most Elon of things, shot himself in the foot. So watching this, let's see, on the daily, to the downside, we have 651s. Well, actually, hold on. Yep, 651s, 616s. Then we get kind of funky, the 585, 579, 568s. To the upside, we have 713, 784, 819, 857. Now, should what Elon said be the death knell for Tesla? Nope. It's not like an accident. It's not like they missed numbers. It's nothing like that. So what I would be cautious of is being too bearish on Tesla based on his comments. You got to sort of parse through the earnings report and what the guidance looks like, just to see the bigger play here. If you're looking at it from a fundamental standpoint and not just a technical, but wait to see how the buyers react to this, how the investors react to this, because they could buy this back up and they could just as well roll this down. But wait to see where we are Monday and let it shake out a little bit to see if the bid is back under Tesla and it's headed back to the upside. Remember, this is a momentum stock, so wait to see where the buyers and sellers are, and if the buyers have set a floor, then you can ride it back up. But if the sellers are still in control, then we're going to sort of melt through this area, probably gap close here to this 650, 51-ish area, probably gap close to there. But if they hold us above here, this little structure here, they could run us easily back to the 784s. So just be careful on Tesla. Take a peek over this at CI. So we see had earnings, concussion on the 202, pull back down. So I would wait to see if this is going to continue. So for me, I would look for an advancement below. Let me scrunch this up. Look at the structure here. Yes, I'm gonna watch this around this 181-ish area to see what we do if we get below that, or if we can get back above the 190s and the buyers kind of give us a little bit of run to the upside here. That's what I'm gonna be watching for on CI. So to the downside on CI, we have this 181. We then have this 173, 163, 157. To the upside, we have 190, 202, 206, 215s, 222s. So what I'm watching for, I'm not playing anything in this area, this little middle zone on CI. I'm going to wait to see if the buyers pushes back above 190. And then I'm interested to get a little bit of run maybe into the 195s, 196s here. I'll take that little run up here, potential. If we get below the 181s, then I would look to the 173, see if we see some continuation there below this level. And getting short below this, my stop would be a pushback above this 181 area on CI. but I would target the 173s. If you like this video, please don't hesitate to tap that like button. And if you'd like to receive similar content, not just from me, but content from Elisa, as she shows you how she utilizes her power of pivot script to find great intraday and swing play entries on futures and on equities and options, please sign up to our channel, Power of Pivots. We look forward to hearing from you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Stay safe. Have a wonderful week of trading, and thank you for your time.